Hi, my name is Rachel Rojales, and I'd like to share to you a story that happened to me the 31st of March this year. It was a day after I was admitted to hospital due to coronavirus, and during this time, Michael was also in hospital due to coronavirus. He was in an induced coma, hooked on a ventilator 2 days before this event had happened. So on the 31st of March, around 9:10 a.m., my mom called me and told me that her fever came back. She had a fever the day before, but it went away because she took some medicine. And I was really worried for her. I was hoping that she wouldn't catch the virus that Michael and I have, because I've read about this in older people who get them. It's not really good. So I told her that she needs to be tested straight away, so we could know whether it's COVID or not. And I told her in my hospital bed that I'll figure something out, so that she can get tested. But it's really hard to figure something out when you're in an isolation room. Lots of thoughts and ideas were in my head, but the more I think about it, the more questions I have rather than solutions. Firstly, who is going to take her to the testing center? I couldn't dare ask any of my friends to take her just in case she has the virus and they might get infected. So what I did was I just started praying and asking God for wisdom, as my mom really needs to be tested as soon as possible. So I only have a phone as a connection to the outside world. And I started calling a few people that God laid in my heart. And as I was having phone calls back and forth with them and with my mom and Megan, and organizing stuff for my mom and worrying for my mom. While this was all happening, a doctor came into my room. This was around midday. And the doctor came and told me that Michael was not doing too well, that he was not breathing on his own, that he was relying on the ventilator 100%. And she explained to me a few more things. And at the end, she said that I should prepare for the worst. And as soon as the doctor left the room, and all of these are happening at the same time, I just remembered looking out the window and saying to God, I cannot do this. You need to help me. You need to help me. You need to help me. And I was just saying that over and over again, and in a loud voice, begging God to help me with this situation. So I after that, I just started calling and messaging people, telling them of Michael's situation and asking them to pray with me. I remember messaging a few people, and I said, I know what the doctors are trying to say, but my God is a God of miracles. He is the resurrection and the life. He has conquered death, and nothing is too hard for him. And this is all I have, my claim of who God is, and prayer. After that, there was a church-wide email sent out by the church to ask people to pray for Michael and to pray with me, praying for God to intervene. Then around 5 p.m., same day, the doctors came into my room and said that they called the Alfred Hospital to ask advice on what else to do for Michael. And the Alfred Hospital said that one of the advices was just to flip Michael over onto his tummy in a prone position. And for me, that just sounds so simple and so silly. But they did that. And as soon as they did that, Michael started breathing again at 50%. And the doctors came into my room to tell me the good news. And I was just really praising God. And I told the doctors that a lot of people were praying for Michael during that time. From the time they told me at midday until now, people have been praying. I wanted them to know that God had something to do with this and that his hand was in this. And God heard my prayers and the prayers of his people. And that was one of the victories for me that day. As for my mom, God had heard my prayers as well by mobilizing the friends that I called, um, mobilizing them on my behalf and giving them favor as they did the organizing for me. They were able to organize an ambulance to pick up my mom, even though the ambulance people don't normally do this. My mom was brought to the hospital for testing instead of the testing center. And when my friends, these people that God has mobilized on my behalf, when they spoke to the hospital, he gave them favor, and they've asked the hospital if I could stay, and the hospital allowed if my mom could stay, and they allowed my mom to stay in the hospital until she gets her result the following day. And that was great, because me stuck in my room could not have done anything if it wasn't God who was mobilized and gave favor to these people. And this is why this is my second victory for that day. And I will always look back on this day, the 31st of March, as a stone marker moment in my life. You know, in the Bible, when people encounter God or God has provided for them in a certain place, they put stone markers. This is my spiritual marker moment, when I knew that God truly answers prayers, and that even when I seem helpless, I am never hopeless, that I can put my hope in Him, and that He can move on my behalf even when I'm incapable of movement. And that was my stone marker moment. When I told Michael this story, he asked me, when did your fear turn into faith? I said to him, well, during this particular event, it was not fear to faith. It was like more of a cross, just for this particular event. It was more of like a crossroad for me, that do I choose fear or do I choose faith? And I chose faith. So Michael had a follow-up question, of course. And he said to me, how did you choose faith? Well, I said, it was like Joshua, you know. He has seen and experienced God's awesomeness in the desert on their way to the promised land. And I felt the same way. How can you not put faith in an awesome God? And I have seen Him move not only in my life, but in the lives of a lot of people. How can you not put your faith in a God like that? Having said that, lots of things happened after the 31st of March with my health, with Michael's health, and my mom passing away. But as these things happened, I get to look back on my stone markers, the one on the 31st of March, and even the other stone markers that God has put in my life. That it reminded me that I can trust in God's goodness and faithfulness. Though I have to admit that sometimes it does get tough. And when the enemy is there and he knows which buttons to press to make you doubt, to make you fearful, like the Israelites, you know, and less like we as normal human beings, we tend to forget. But that's why I really praise God, because for bringing alongside me people who love Him, people of faith, that He has surrounded me with these people who helps me to remember my stone markers and help point me back to God. And that's during this time from March until now, that's how God had helped me survive my journey, our journey in the last few months. So I encourage you, if you are in a crossroad, fear or faith, choose faith in God, who is all-loving and all-knowing, because He loves you and He always knows what is best for you. And if it's still difficult and things are still not making sense, speak to people of faith, people who love God, people who can pray with you, people whom God can use to point you back to Him. So choose faith. God bless you all.